live. Good morning, Facebook friends. I hope that everybody's week is off to a good start. And I have another podcast recording this morning. I'm super excited to introduce today's guest, Margaret Dahlberg. And this is a really special episode for a math podcast, actually, because because Margaret is a classically trained pianist. She is a composer. She is a music educator. She is a graduate of the Cleveland Institute of Music. So not the typical math background, right, that we have, but I'm very excited to talk to her today about music and using music as a way to sort of alleviate some of that, as a tool, I guess, to alleviate stress and math test anxiety. So let me finish up your bio. I got kind of distracted there already.
I love
my brain's going towards the math anxiety and I can't.
Well, you got I'm starting to think about all these things I want to talk about now.
All right, so let me finish up your introduction. So Margaret's the founder, creator, and an early childhood music teacher and a piano teacher at Music Kids at Chinook School of Music. And the really cool thing that I just love is that she's also a composer of emotional mental support music at Guided Harmonies. So you have such a fascinating and unique background, Margaret. Welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, well, it's great to be here. And it's fun. It's interesting to hear you say, you know, music, it's just so different for a math person, because of course, the way I think about math is music and math are like cousins, really. You know, so music is actually a very mathematical, scientific thing. And I love what you do because, you know, for me and for most pianists, when you talk to them, math was just a natural occurrence in my brain. Nothing I did. It's just, I was born with it. And I think a lot, you know, I'm this very experienced teacher, and I feel like I could teach any child, person, human, 90-year-old to play the piano, but I cannot teach math. Because I see it, I can't explain it. And I think about what you do and how wonderful it is, because, you know, I may have been born with a math brain, but I certainly wasn't born, say, I don't have a runner's body, right? And yet I still found a way to run a half marathon. And I think what you do is so important, because I watch people, children, friends, my own daughter, struggle with math and feel so inadequate for not, which is like feeling inadequate for being born with blue eyes instead of brown eyes. You know, so I love that you're doing this. Now I'm digressing.
No, I love it. And I love your comparison of math to, you know, learning how to play music and learning how to, say, you know, run a marathon and stuff like that. Because, you know, you're right. I think I fall into the same boat as far as marathon running goes. I actually never ran a marathon until after I had my first child. And I think, you know, I'd run cross country and stuff in high school, and I was not one of the top athletes by any means. You know, I was definitely someone who worked really, really hard to like get on the JV team for running. But it's interesting how, you know, even if you don't feel like you're naturally good at something, right? All of these things are still skills. Right? Yes. There's still skills that we can learn, even if we feel like we're not the natural runner or the natural piano player, you know, with that practice and with that kind of positive encouragement and stuff, in the right tools, right? All of it is possible, you know?
Yeah, I think about, you know, I'm 5'3". I know there are NBA players that are under 6 feet tall, you know, so I can still shoot a basket at times, you know. So again, I think it's just so important to spread this message that you can learn to love math and not allow yourself to, I don't know, to feel like there's something wrong with you, or that, you know, that you're never going to get it. And, you know, anyway.
Yes, perfect. No, what a wonderful way to start off the interview. I love it. The perfect message. So tell me a little bit about your background, right? Because you made a big switch in what you're doing.
Yeah, well, gosh, I
That.
suppose I call it an imposed reset. So I was a very competitive, ambitious classical pianist in my 20s. I'm turning 50 in less than 2 months, so if that can give you a sense. And I was in a car accident, and it was not a serious car accident by any stretch, except it permanently damaged my scapholunate in my wrist ligament that made it impossible for me to play at the level I'd been playing at. So I admit it was a blow, and I had to spend a lot of time figuring out how to be me when I wasn't a pianist, because I didn't realize that it was not just what I did, it was a lot of who I was. So like many people in my generation, I really got into this whole, kind of finding happiness and contentment and becoming a happier person and reading self-help books and, learning to find joy on the inside instead of by what I did. And within that, at the same time, I started an early childhood music program, which was something that I would have looked down upon when I was a classical pianist, but I needed the income and it seemed like it would be easy. But what happened is I really fell in love with it. I fell in love with interacting with the families. And what surprised me the most is it wasn't the music, it was helping these struggling parents feel okay about their child. Just like what we just said about math, you can't control if your child is, outgoing, clingy, not participating. We can't change that. They are who they are too, right? And so through that evolution, I began things like I took a life coaching course, and it helped me interact with families better. And quite frankly, I would play the piano at parties, for fun after a couple glasses of wine. And suddenly I went, hey, I can play by ear. And then eventually it became, hey, I can create my own music. And that evolved. And eventually I kind of put the two together because I realized that with all my exposure to music, my mother was a piano teacher. So I would sit and hear the piano all day long while she was teaching, not to mention then my own exposure to piano. So I feel like I had this capacity to take all the things I just described and use it to create music that helped people move through their emotions. And so I created 3 different albums. One was dealing with anxiety. One was dealing with just emotional intensity, more like, grief, like the bigger stuff, grief and sadness. And then one was about empowering people. And at the same time, I created a show with songs and words that I was performing, had nothing to do with this therapeutic music, but it was very successful. And last year I realized, okay, so if I'm good at writing a show that's a narrative with music, and I'm good at creating this therapeutic music, what if I put those two together? Because not everyone understands why what they're listening to is going to help them feel better. So then I added words. So it became this thing that there would be music, and then I would add these words to just help the person connect and recognize how and why the music was working. Does that make sense? That was I just talked a long time.
It totally does. I love it. Gosh, there are so many good things that you packed into there. I think, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna start backtracking to your accident and this change that you had in your life. And one, I just want to say that, I'm so impressed with how you dealt with that and how you grew from that, and it is one of those things where, I think students, in our as teachers and parents, we see our kids get so upset over these little things sometimes,
Yeah.
like, I got like a C on something, or just like, I don't even want to do this math homework. And it seems
Yes.
like it's such a huge deal, right? But when we talk about, things like this, being able to pick yourself up from a car accident
Mm.
that changed your ability to do the thing that you'd always studied and loved your entire life, your whole life's pursuit, that's being able to pick yourself up from.
Well, I appreciate that. And I mean, I admit it took a lot of time.
Mhm.
There was a lot of, I went through all the stages of grief, like, and I tried, first it took a couple of years of having surgeries and determining, is this really happening? And then I'll be honest, I was like, I might as well have kids now. I don't have anything better to do.
But it
Turned out
is
I
it's
loved
a
being a
process.
mom. Thankfully, I still love being a mom. And then, again, of course, in this day and age, because I'd lost a career, there was also a settlement involved, and it was fairly generous, but not generous enough. So here I had my kids and a husband, and still needed to make money. And so even though it sounds like this noble overcoming, it was a combination of things. Like, I had to have a job. I didn't want to be an after school piano teacher with young children, because I knew from experience that you don't get to spend time with your kids when you're teaching after school. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll try this early childhood program. And thank God, I'm so I'm so grateful it ended up being just such an incredible, wonderful experience, not just to do. I mean, nothing like having little 2-year-old babies hug you and sit on your lap while you're singing songs, but I grew so much, and just, yeah, really. So like I
But
said,
I do think you're very modest about it, because I do think with things that are difficult like that, of course it's not easy to overcome, and that's what it's difficult,
yeah.
and
But I guess I'm saying that because I think we have to be careful, because there's that moment of emotion where it just really sucks. And I
yeah.
think sometimes with our kids, especially because we just want them to feel better. We want that. Just pick yourself up and try not to, and I think so what I'd like to get at is, instead of, not that I'm implying there's a pressure, but I think sometimes we inadvertently can put this pressure on people that, look, it's no big deal. So you failed at your test. You're going to be a great basketball player tonight, or whatever, to learn that, there is that process. And that's actually the point of my podcast. Like, well, my podcast, they're pieces, they're podcasts, they're videos, they're on SoundCloud. But the point is to teach people to be, and this is my own catchphrase, emotionally active, to be emotional, to feel emotional. My podcast guide you into feeling it and then releasing you from it. So you can learn that you can get upset and step in. And if you really authentically feel it, then you can move on. And that literally took, and yes, I'm proud that I can say I'm pretty good at it now, but it took me 20 years or more to get to that point. It's there's this combination of encouraging ourselves, but also allowing ourselves to just kind of like find our way. Anyway, I don't know how
No,
relatable to math this is.
I love that. No, I love that, because I mean, yes, I don't think I necessarily knew what point I wanted to make about, sort of overcoming difficulties and stuff. But I think
Yeah,
that, one, it's not off topic, because I think so often students think about overcoming difficulties and how you need to do that,
yeah.
and what that means, right? And
Well,
in
and for
other
parents
contexts, but they
too.
forget about that in
Yeah,
terms of math, right? And you're right, absolutely. The whole sort of message of, oh, don't worry about it, you'll
yeah,
just sort of bypassing that low moment,
yeah,
can do them a disservice. I think that's a really, really important point, because, like, yes, if you fail the test, it's going to suck, especially if that's going to have some sort of impact on, where you go to college, and stuff like that.
yes,
And it's okay to get upset, and the process of, improving and picking yourself back up, right? And maybe overcoming that math anxiety, whatever it is, that is really hurting you, it doesn't happen overnight. And I think that's something that I've definitely found with students with math anxiety is you don't just say, oh, you have math anxiety, and you need to just remember, math is a skill, and if you work at it, you'll be better. And they don't just sort of magically say, oh, well, okay, I guess I just didn't realize that. It's a journey, much like what you described, and obviously the harder you fall, or the bigger the obstacle it is, sometimes the longer that journey it is. And
absolutely. And for parents too, I imagine like this must be, I'm guessing there are a lot of parents watching what you do. And I mean, man, do we ever want our kids to not feel crummy about themselves? It's like, I think one of our number one goals. And so when our children are struggling, finding the words, and I don't know if any of these, with teens getting pushed away again and again as you try to comfort them and trying to find the right words. And it's there's so much emotional work we have to do as parents. Yes. And we want our kids to be good at math. Let's admit it. Who doesn't? We live in this world where somehow being good at math is like, it's like adds an extra swagger to your step. But it's a challenge.
It is. All right, so let's get back to the music part. All right, because I do want to talk about how you create these pieces for people that really have to do with emotion and different sort of emotional feelings that they're having, or support that they need. And I guess let me preface this a little bit with why I was so interested in this. All right. So a couple of years ago, I did an experiment. It was like a month-long experiment for students with math anxiety in my class. And we did this little routine from this book called The Miracle Morning. And it has like 6 different things that you do to sort of start off your day well. We can use it at the beginning of classes, and teachers use it in their classes now to help students, with different things. So it's something that sort of like 6 minutes at the beginning of class to just sort of, I guess, not jump straight into the subject, but just sort of help students as people, right?
To sort of center them, focus them.
Exactly. Yeah. And focus and confidence, and resilience in it. It helps with all of these things. And one of the things that we did during that little 6-minute experiment at the beginning of class was meditation. And we did a 1-minute meditation, during this. And it was, again, supposed to help to, center students and focus and sort of help them to just sort of let the rest of their lives go and, focus on, we're going to be here in math. And it was very cheesy. I have to say, I never in a million years probably thought that I would ever start a math class with a meditation, but I introduced it to the students as an experiment. This is something that, we've read articles, and there's research that meditation helps students with math anxiety. So why not try it out? It might not help you individually, but if it helps a couple kids in our class, it's worth us trying it out. And as I've learned more about meditation and its effect on stress and anxiety and stuff like that, through, I guess, my own just sort of searching for different meditations and music and stuff like that on YouTube, I realized there are so many different things out there. And in class, we simply just it was essentially a breathing exercise, but I think it's very interesting when you add in this music component. And I think when you are sort of, if you're a student, or if you have a child or a student in your class who thinks that meditation could be helpful for their math anxiety, I think there is a step where you're looking to find what types of meditations or what types of music can help you with that. And that's very personal, and that's going to vary so much from person to person. So I found it just so fascinating that this is what you make. This is the type of music that you make. And so I don't know, tell us a little bit about it, about your process for making it.
Sure. So,
I've talked for a long time now.
No, it's good. Well, I'm thinking, first of all, I just want to mention, like, part of our connection is because you came to me and said, will you create one of these for my math anxiety students?
Yes. And I was so amazed. You were like, yes. And literally like the next day it was up. I was like, how do you do that?
Well, the pandemic helps. I have a lot, sadly, way more time than well, I shouldn't say sadly, maybe sad for my income, but not sad for my ability to create music. So you asked me for a podcast specifically dealing with test anxiety.
Yes.
And I sat with it, and because my first I was like, I'm not, I'm a natural, again, I'm a natural performer. I was born with it. So I haven't struggled with test anxiety. However, I certainly know what nerves feel like, and performancing. I have had occasionally, these experiences with incapacitating nerves. So I started to think about that. And then, so say to create my music, specifically the test anxiety, or really any kind of emotion, I think what happens again is it's this combination of my own, sort of, I'm an emotional person. I can access emotions very easily. And then my musical education, I had extensive theory education. And then I really think just spending all those years hearing piano lessons going on, got my brain just constantly interpreting sounds. And, music is created to be emotional. All music is emotional, right? Whether it's, Hotel California, or whether it's that song called the Paco Bell Canon that everyone gets married to when they walk down the aisle, it evokes an emotion. So when I have a subject in mind, such as anxiety, I literally sit at my keyboard, which is here. It's connected to my computer, and I'm recording, and I just start thinking about, what does it feel like to be anxious and so stressed? And maybe I could have been an actor, because somehow I'm able to create this feeling and think about it. And as I think, it comes out. It comes out literally as music. And I can, like I can, if I'm thinking about something like right now, I'm kind of energetic, like I'm a little nervous. You and I are talking right now. So if I was to try and portray that, there'd probably be like a fairly movement, I'd be moving a lot. My fingers would go faster. The harmonies would be changing quickly.
Yes.
So I'll sit with that, and I'll start thinking and feeling and recording. And I just do it. and by the time I get to the end, the piece is pretty much, like, the foundation of the piece is complete. So other than going in and tweaking a few things, I might have hit a few cracks on the piano. I might have wanted to change a slight melody line. I then go, okay, I always start with piano. I think to myself, what else is there? And then I'll think of some more instruments, and there might be one or two. I might end up with stacks of instruments. And I just sort of tweak it. So it tends to happen very fast on one hand, but I think it probably took me 49 years of skill development to be able to do it.
Yep.
And that's, so I have the test anxiety. I just did one about anger last week, because interestingly enough, I was witnessing some significant anger amongst my teenage kids. I was feeling it myself because I had personal things going on. But then the political stuff on Wednesday, and it made me think, let's be compassionately, everybody is angry. And whether it's okay if you agree with what people did or didn't do, it doesn't matter. There's anger there, and anger is a real emotion. And so last week, I found myself creating a podcast, a piece where I take us into that anger, and I let us feel that anger, and then I release us from it. And I'm saying us, the listener,
yes.
So anger. I have, I'll talk to a friend whose parent has passed away, and I have aged parents. I think about that all the time. So then I can create a podcast about grieving, and it just, sometimes I make happier ones, like ones that are more uplifting, inspiring ones. So it sort of depends on how I'm feeling and sort of what's happening in the theme or what I'm asked of. Sometimes, like you, if someone says, can you create a piece about test anxiety? I can. Or if they say, hey, my Aunt Myrtle's turning 80 and I love this woman, let me tell you a bit about her. I can create a piece that honors Aunt Myrtle,
Right. And that's something that you do, right? Just sort of
Yes.
like my request about the math anxiety, that's something that you can do for people. So if you are listening to this, right, and have something, as you're listening to this and thinking about, oh, I'd love a piece for this, people can get in touch with you. Yes.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Like I created an anthem for the Canadian Special Olympics team recently. I had someone come to me and say, my husband is just obsessed with his circuit workout as his cool down on the roller or something like that. Can you make a piece that has 8 seconds of stretches or 32 seconds of something? And then, so I made this piece specifically for this guy and getting to know enough about this guy to know, how to make it sound. So I've even done music like that. It's pretty fun.
That's awesome. And then of course we've got the math anxiety one. And I do love what you said about the piece on anger, because it's not just that it's about getting over the anger, right? And brushing it aside. The way you described it is it's allowing people to recognize that moment before moving past it, and I think that speaks actually to what you were talking about earlier, right? Of just not sort of brushing over these emotions, but actually, allowing us and students and kids, to take that moment to recognize
feel it. If the people that rushed Capitol Hill knew how to access, feel, and release their anger throughout their lives, I promise you they wouldn't have been destructive in that way.
Right.
Doesn't mean you don't. I mean, this is the thing. Anger is so normal. I mean, again, we're moving into a different subject. Anger is a normal feeling. Anxiety is a normal feeling. Feeling is so important. And yet we're also busy wanting to help people feel better or to feel better ourselves, that we're scared to feel. And yet what experts know and what I've experienced personally is the sooner we feel better.
Yes.
It happens very quickly.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that actually speaks to. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
There's another thing for math anxiety that students do that I've helped students experiment with, which is there was a paper written about how students who write about their math anxiety right before an exam tend to have less anxiety during the exam, because they've taken that moment to write about it and acknowledge it. And then because they've done that, they're able to let it go. And as we're talking about this, I'm realizing that's exactly the same process that you do, but with music, right? It's taking that moment to acknowledge it so that way you can move past it. Sorry, I just made that connection to what you're doing and this random study about test anxiety that I had read a long time ago.
Well, and what you just said also, that's true. Like anything you can do to connect with the feeling will help, whether it's writing or listening to music. There's a somatic practice. Somatics is the study of how we store our feelings in our body. So say if you know someone who has ongoing stomach aches, it's usually there's emotional congestion in there that needs to be released. So one of the practices is when you're feeling something, to actually feel it harder. So to actually, like, let's say you're worried about something, to to really just get yourself as worried as you can and then let it go, so that could also be a test anxiety.
Yes. Oh, definitely worth trying.
But we just want to sweep it away, but like if you think of that anxiety, imagine, us parents, especially when you've got that child that's stressed out, they're pulling on your pants or your jacket and they're like, mom, I don't know, I'm scared, I'm worried, I'm nervous. If we just keep saying, oh, come on, you're fine, oh, come on, you're fine, their feelings get bigger, right? They get more, but mom. And yet the moment, if you just pick them up and go, wow, you're scared, you're nervous, and it's doing it to ourselves. saying, oh my gosh, I am really nervous here. Not, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be nervous because I'm nervous, I'm not going to do well on my exam now. Oh, and the more nervous I get, now I'm going to do worse. I'm going to do worse. It's going to get worse, you know?
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, you're right. It's totally a parenting hack, if you will. Right now that I think about it, right? There's times where it's like, I get so stressed out with the kids. I get so stressed out sometimes. And the times where I'm like, I shouldn't be stressed out. I should be happy mom, but I'm stressed out, right? That doesn't help. But when you're right, there are those moments where I'm just sort of like, I am freaking stressed out. You know, I'm pissed because of this and this and this and this. And when I do take that time to just sort of
go in the bathroom, run the water and go,
I take my mom time out. You're right. It's when you acknowledge it, it helps you to move past it faster. Totally.
Well, another thing I learned along the way regarding this, I talk about somatic practice, is that true emotion lasts about 45 to 90 seconds.
Interesting.
So if we are really feeling just our feelings, that is how quickly we can be through. But if we feel them and go, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. Okay, so that's the authentic feeling is, I'm really anxious. I'm fearing failure, right? I think that would be test anxiety is fearing failure. So that could be a 90-second fear. But then if I fail this test, I'm going to fail this course. Well, we're adding another at least minute. If I fail this course, I might have to take it again. Now we're adding probably another, I don't know, hour of stress. I'm not going to get into university, you know, and take parenting. If I'm so stressed out right now, then I'm not going to be a good mom to my child right now. And then I'm not going to, you know, and then they're going to get upset, and then I'm not going to, and maybe I'm not going to be able to get to my appointment on time. And then I'm not, you know, we make it bigger and bigger and bigger because we go into the thinking about what these feelings are going to cause. But if we just feel, and that goes back to the point of my music. And the music, all of us find it easy to feel things when we hear music. You know, any type of music. What do you like to listen to? Do you have a type of music you enjoy? I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, probably super embarrassing, just whatever happens to be popular.
Yeah, whatever's on, or let's say you might hear a song from high school that you loved and it puts you in a good mood, right?
It does. Yeah, it brings back memories.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, you know, the music, all music is created with vibration, and the vibration connects to your body in the same somatic way I'm talking about. It connects to your body vibrates, different parts of your body vibrate different ways. And so depending on the vibrations of the music, it impacts how you feel, right, physically and emotionally, because they're not two different things they've learned. They are one and the same. We don't feel physically different than we feel emotionally. It's all connected.
Right. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of this.
My pleasure.
I can't believe we're out of time already.
I know, it feels like we need to talk even more.
I was thinking that too. But
thank you for having me, but thank you so much for what you do, Allison. I just applaud you, because math is such a huge stress for humans that struggle with it, or love other humans that struggle with it. And it's such a wonderful cause.
Well, thank you so much. And, you know, honestly, I think conversations like this, where we sort of talk outside of just the math sphere, you know, can help so much, I think, with helping students to get better with it. Before we go though, can you, because I know that there's going to be people listening to this who want to find out about your music, to listen to it, to possibly contact you about making, you know, specific pieces. Where can people, you know, find your music and find out more about you?
Oh, sure. Okay. So my website, guidedharmonies.com, is definitely a low budget musician created website. However, you can find me through there. My straight music is on all the streaming sites. If you search my name, Margaret Dahlberg, so that means music without words. My music with words, my Guided Harmonies, there's a podcast called Guided Harmonies. So you can find me on all the podcasting sites. You can also find Guided Harmonies on SoundCloud, and you can find it on my YouTube channel, because, you know, for me, this is about giving giving to the world. I'm not concerned about profiting with my music. I just like, especially after watching something like last week, I want to help humans get better at feeling okay with themselves and all that's going on around them.
And the math anxiety piece that you created for me is
Yep.
on Guided Harmonies, correct?
Yes, it is. It's on Guided Harmonies podcast, and it is also on the YouTube channel. So I can share that link with you later today.
Awesome. And I will make sure that I put that in the show notes for the podcast so you have it there, but then you can also go and search for it on Guided Harmonies also. So
Great.
Thank you so much for this, Margaret. This was wonderful.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for having me.
All right. And thank you for listening, everybody. I will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.